when the internet was created, it was meant to be this very decentralized network of networks. No one controlled everything. Governments weren't in charge of it, all of that. And obviously, over the decades, it's become more and more centralized, both as companies have just merged with each other, but also governments have done things that we know of through leaks where, ISPs have to funnel traffic through government servers so they can kind of listen to things. And different countries will do that differently, right? Do you think that there is any sort of existential threat to the internet as we know it? Like what, or is there going to be a new generation of the internet? Is the internet 2 going to take off? Are people going to build a new replacement internet that doesn't have the restrictions of and sort of the centralization of the current one? I mean, no technology lasts forever. So what are thought leaders in the networking space? And maybe, it's not good for the big companies like Cloudflare and Amazon to have a separate internet because it's, their business is built on the existing one. But is there something that's going to replace it? What will be the downfall of the internet?
There's a lot of questions in that. I think, first of all, we do like the idea of one internet. In fact, Cloudflare as a company continues to use a capital I in internet instead of like the prevailing sort of lowercase I. I don't know when that happened, but I always use capital I for internet because there's only one, right? There's only one internet, or there should only be one. We watch what's going on around the world, obviously through the lens of our network. We have insights into things that are happening on the internet in different parts of the world. If you go look on our blog recently, we published our 2024 year in review of all the things that we saw in terms of outages, in terms of places where governments are blocking internet access. An interesting dynamic is during exam season in certain countries, they shut off the internet for kids taking exams because they don't want cheating to happen. So they just shut down the whole internet. Could you imagine if the US government shut down the whole internet during SAT week or whatever? I mean, but that literally is it happens, and they shut down the internet. They also shut down the internet when they're going through some sort of political strife. Election season we just passed. Cloudflare was involved in protecting lots of election websites, candidate websites, trying to keep things up and running, because when things get shut off is when people go sort of dark and they have no visibility. They start to panic a little bit, like, what's going on? This is how we communicate. And if you shut off people's way of communicate, it becomes a real problem. And if people sense instability in the institutions that power their lives, they start to panic as well. And so protecting the internet is part of our mission. And we have to do that within the context of the law. And the law is different in countries all around the world. We can't break the law. We can't go against, a local or regional or country kind of regulation. We have to sort of navigate that in an interesting kind of way. There's nothing behind that statement. It is what it is. We have a very difficult job in operating all around the world in ways that adhere to all these different laws. And so we have a huge team of people that have to figure that stuff out and refigure it out because it changes all the time. And you asked about multiple internets. There are different ways of managing the internet in different countries. We can see it in a few pockets around the world where they have a very tight level of control around what you can do and where you can go and what you can see and what sites can operate. And then you have other countries that are much more free about it. And I know that that's going to continue to be a thing, because as countries want to preserve their power, or as leaders in countries want to preserve their power, sometimes they lean in that direction of getting a much more tight control over what is being shared on social media. Social media is such a big part of our lives now. We're seeing that dynamic play out in the news around the elections as well, that it has a bigger role in a presidential election than ever before. And you can imagine that certain countries, they just don't want that. They don't want to have that problem. They're just going to deal with it with a very tight clamp around the internet. And that just leads to the potential for the balkanization, I think is the word they like to use, where you've got different parts of the world that operate differently. And I don't know if I have a strong opinion on how that should be managed. I would like to be in a world where the internet is free and open and available to everybody at sort of a level playing field. I like that idea. I grew up, building the internet in the spirit of this should be a way we should all communicate, think about using it for our daily lives. I love that idea, but the stakes are much higher as we continue to do more with it, and therefore people have more of an interest in wrapping control around it, right? And I don't know where that leads. I don't know if I can look in the crystal ball and tell you where it's going, but I can tell you that Cloudflare is going to have a role in that. You know, we're going to be involved in it. We're going to try to explain what needs to be explained to people so that they can make the right decisions around these things, or the at least the decisions that are fully informed. You know, and when needed, we can all get involved and make our voices heard around the things that we value as consumers of the internet as well.
I just think, I mean, no technology lasts forever. The internet's amazing that it's been around for like 40 or 50 years. In still, it basically, yeah, there's a lot of new protocols and whatever, but it's basically what it was. And I'm just curious what will kill it, because something will always out innovate it and replace it. Like nothing lasts forever. So I don't know what it will be. I don't know if it'll be some peer-to-peer thing, you know, people just setting up like wireless things from rooftop to rooftop in cities, and they just make their own completely separate network. I don't know if it'll be Starlink like launching its own separate internet, you know, from space or something.
Starlink's doing interesting stuff. That's another thing that got reported in our report for the end of the year, is just the uptick in how many people are using Starlink and where they're using it from. And it's crazy to think about, we're shifting from fiber internet to space-based internet, and but it's both. It's not going to be one or the other. And I think you're right. It could be we extend into another technology platform or another way. I mean, I don't think necessarily when I hear the word internet, it necessarily means a particular type of technology, because it's more of a concept. It's like connecting all the things, right? Connecting devices and people and doing it. I don't think there's any reason the internet couldn't be on some other technology platform, wireless or lasers or you know, something else that we dream up in some point. But it is the way that we connect everyone, you know, sort of all over the world. And as long as we want to have that as a goal, then the internet, at least as an idea, can continue to shape what we go build as technologists.